Now, we relocated from the Northeast, and I will say there, it was more inclusive just because it's a melting pot of all races there. Even their, Montessori school, their elementary schools were the same. And so I would say there, they felt nurtured and they felt seen and they felt heard. And even their elementary school teacher um, basically noted to me, your sons are going to be leaders one day. This was a probably 70 plus Caucasian woman who saw like all of this greatness in my kids at such young ages. And I was just like, that is telling. Like, I love that. And then we come here and it's the opposite. My kids are smart. They they converse well. Uh, my older son, opinionated and expressive, and sometimes that didn't bode well, like in the educational system. And I could see that things were turning and changing. So, you sometimes you think things have changed, but they haven't changed as much as you thought they have, right? And it was hard for us. And so as a family, that meant we all had to go to counseling to talk about this. We all had to go to counseling to talk about race. We all had to go to counseling to put forth a plan that could really engage our children inside of these schools and inside of these white spaces. And for some of it, we would give the plan to the teacher and say, these are the things that we are expecting you to do with our son or with our daughter, because it would be one where they would be in spaces and they would be called out for doing the same thing that someone else was doing. And that just wasn't fair. And that's where the anger, would come in for specifically boys as to why am I being treated this way? And I just did the same thing that this other person did. But the punishment is harsher for me than it is for him. It's not fair, which made me be more visible on school campuses. If I entered any school, I wanted them to know my name exactly. Miss Helen Hope Kimbrough is on the premises. She is going to this classroom. So I was intentional around that and intentional about calling it out if I saw it, not just for my kid, but for any other kid.
I don't want us to move past the point that you shared around the impacts of your son's racial identity journey, resulting into a stepping you all addressing it as a family by involving a therapist.
Yes.
And I think, so many people may not realize the burden of the Black tax and what it means to navigate and all of that. So how did you all as a family, because I think it's not always, particularly when you did it, maybe not the first cultural response to go into therapy. So how did y'all navigate that?
Well, I think once you see like the dynamics of your children change, it's like, well, what's going on here? Like, what's happening? And then as a parent, you feel like you have the responses and all the answers, but then you see that you don't. And you see that you need someone who has more experience in this space, or even more experience in talking to children about this. Because, when kids hear their parents, sometimes it's wah, 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 wah. Like, are they talking about this again? I don't hear them. But if they hear it from someone else, but then someone who's well trained in this, it's better. And so I would actually say it was my husband that was like, I think we all need to go to counseling, because also when you're faith-based, you're thinking your faith is also going to be the covering. And I'm not saying it's not, so I don't want to hear anything otherwise. But I think you need extra, exposure and experience of someone who is in this space who can talk about that too. And so
you can love Jesus and go to therapy at the same time.
You can do both. You can do both. Yes. And so that's really how it came about. And we needed tools. And so I think, it's good for us to kind of lift that up so that we can obtain those things.